You're listening to Radio Long Island City, recorded at our studios near Hell Gate, 9 kilometers north of the Harbor Hill Moraine. And now, the Observatory. The Observatory, Thursday the 2nd of July, 2026. It is 11 days after the summer solstice. It is 82 days before the autumnal equinox. By the Hebrew calendar, today is the 17th day of Tammuz and marks the beginning of the 3 weeks, a period of mourning for the destruction of the Temple in Jerusalem. In today's episode, bird baths, a British invasion, the raft of the Medusa, the Amistad, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and more. Today's forecast: sunny and very hot, high near 102 degrees Fahrenheit, 38.9 Celsius. West wind 6 to 10 miles per hour. The National Weather Service's extreme heat warning for Queens County remains in effect all day, today and tonight. The sun rises today at 5:29 a.m. Solar noon takes place today at 1 p.m. The sun sets today at 8:31 p.m. Civil twilight ends at 9:04 p.m. and nautical twilight ends at 9:46 p.m. The length of daytime today is 39 seconds shorter than yesterday. The moon is in its waning gibbous phase and is 93% full at midday. The moon sets today at 7:44 a.m. and then it rises again at 10:49 p.m. These are the predicted tides today for Horns Hook. In the middle of the night, high tide, 12:13 a.m., 1 meter 58. In the morning, low tide, 6:30 a.m., 6 centimeters. In the afternoon, high tide, 12:49 p.m., 1 meter 40. In the evening, low tide, 6:41 p.m., 24 centimeters. In our shared realm of plants and animals, in a garden that's been equipped with trays full of water for the heat wave, a steady procession of birds. A small group of mourning doves passes a lazy hour or two near a tray set on the ground in the shade. After having a drink, they settle on the ground as a group. They lower their bodies so their bellies touch the shady bed of pine needles, rather like splooting squirrels. Later, many sparrows appear in a bush nearby, chirping excitedly. One by one they zip down and enter the water, ruffling their feathers and shaking their bodies. Water drops fly about. They seem to like best taking turns. The next day, the trays and bowls are half full and need to be replenished. Commemorations. On this day in 1776, 50 British ships under the command of General Sir William Howe passed through the Verrazano Narrows and entered New York Harbor. They anchored on Staten Island. It was the first contingent of the largest expeditionary force ever assembled by Great Britain. A few months later, they would take the city and occupy it until the end of the War of Independence. On this day in 1816, the French frigate La Méduse, or the Medusa, ran aground off the coast of Mauritania in West Africa. Although almost 400 people were saved as the ship sank, 151 people ended up on an improvised raft. When the raft was finally recovered 13 days later, only 15 had survived. The tragic event became the subject of Théodore Géricault's famous painting, The Raft of the Medusa. The Romantic painter dramatized the plight of the castaways, and his choice to immortalize a contemporary event shocked his contemporaries, more used to dramatic historical paintings. Also in maritime history, on this day in 1839, Africans who had been abducted in West Africa for the transatlantic slave trade rose up against the crew of the slave ship Amistad. They took control of the ship and instructed the navigator, whose life they had spared, to turn the ship back to Africa. He, however, directed them northwards. The Amistad was intercepted in the Long Island Sound by the U.S. Navy, and the people aboard brought to shore in Connecticut. The ensuing court case went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Amistad Africans were represented in the court by former President John Quincy Adams, and the court ruled in their favor. The survivors were able to return to Africa, their voyage underwritten by abolitionists. On this day in 1843, it was reported that an alligator had fallen from the sky during a violent thunderstorm in Charleston, South Carolina. The alligator was found at the corner of Wentworth and Anson Streets when the storm had cleared, and though no one had actually seen him land, a local reporter wrote, "And as he couldn't have got there any other way, it was decided unanimously that he rained down." The poor creature was said to have had a very dazed expression on his face. In our preparations for July 4th, we were going to speak of practicality and pragmatism as strong American virtues. But today is an anniversary of great importance. On this day in 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law. It outlawed segregation in businesses such as theaters, restaurants, and hotels. It banned discriminatory practices in employment and ended segregation in public places such as swimming pools, libraries, and public schools. Johnson famously remarked later that in passing the act, the Democratic Party may have lost the South for a generation. He underestimated, but it's striking that it took a Southern politician to finally pass a comprehensive bill ensuring all people enjoyed equal treatment. In today's World Cup round of 32, Spain faces Austria in California, Portugal faces Croatia in Toronto, and Switzerland faces Algeria in Vancouver. Finally, we hope our listeners are finding ways to stay cool during this heat wave. And that is the Observatory, Thursday the 2nd of July, 2026.